Hey, this is ddverni from Overkill and the Cadillac Band. I got a brand new record called Buckle Up coming out with my Cadillac Band. It's a 13-piece big band, swing band. I have a show December 6th at the House of Independence in Asbury Park. I'd love to see you guys down there, especially you Overkill fans. Get out there. Let's hear you listening to some swing music and listen to the show John the Ninja on his podcast. I was happy to be part of that. We got a lot of interesting things going on with that as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It is John the Ninja in the Dojo, aka the Dojang. This is an interview years in the making. It is Jersey's pride. Italy has given us one of the greatest musical minds of all time. Barry, Italy, may I add. And because his mom and dad got him a guardian dog that he still has to this day in his studio chilling, we'll explain that later, we have received one of the greatest thinkers in heavy metal of all time. His bands are numerous. His contributions, my man, I can't even tell you how important they are. No offense to you ladies, but I digress. One thing I really do have to point out is he is the pride of New Jersey. When he was younger, he used to sneak out of his parents' home, go through the window, catch the train to Hoboken, and he would see the greats, whether or not it was the Misfits, hanging out with Blondie, whether it was Metallica or Megadeth. Him and his friends were dedicated to getting. Now, don't be shocked. This man is also tenured when it comes to knowing all sorts of music. Not just Big Daddy Voodoo and the swing bands, but we also got to throw in the punks, even the newer version of it with Green Day and Blink-182, going back to the Sex Pistols. But his bread and butter started, just like many of us, by finding Black Sabbath and Kiss. And because Gene Simmons played bass, that's what he knew he was destined to do. Now, don't pull back too much. My man could sing and play guitar at the same time, but I digress. The individual I speak of is ddverni, known for an assortment of bands, but the one you're probably thinking of is Overkill. Since their inception in 1980, these guys have been trailblazers, part of the original big four of thrash, including Testament, Exodus, and Death Angel. But we are here to talk about his passion project, which is doing a hell of a lot better than just a passion project. A man has gone out of his way to do swing vibes. Now, he's not a dancer, or so he says, but for somebody that makes music as potent, I tell you, I brought this to the swing club. It went over pretty well. But DD has created the Cadillac Band, and they're going on their second album, Buckle Up. Now, when I tell you, he's got some bangers on this one as far as swing is concerned, and big band vibes. You're gonna truly enjoy the vibe that they are creating. So here to talk about Buckle Up and their show in Asbury Park, the 6th of December. Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have ddverni. Sir, how are you doing?
Doing pretty darn good after that intro. Damn, I feel like the Targaryen lady on Game of Thrones, where she's got that long intro: Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains, Ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. It's like it goes on and on. I was like, damn, I sound pretty good.
Good sir, I am such in awe of what you've accomplished and the commitment you've had to music, and you've still got the cool vibe to you, man. You got the hat on backwards, you still got the jack, man. I wanted to know what room in the house is, because you got the famous portrait.
Well, that picture my lovely daughter Olivia gave to me. I have a friend of mine who's an artist, and she said, I want to get a drawing of and me and my dad. And of course, it's giving the finger. I have another picture in here. I think at her prom, it's me and her giving the finger. I mean, you can't play an Overkill for all those years. And that's just a greeting. And I'm from Jersey, which is also a greeting. So, and then the world map, I don't know where that one came from my wife years ago. And so I got a thing of little blue pins where it's like, you know, I've been here, been here, been here, been here. Then I ran out. I had to buy another whole thing of blue pins because I've been everywhere. And so it just started filling up after a while. But that was a fun way when my kids were little. We'd come in and put a pin, you know, oh, you went to wherever, Bangalore today. Oh, you went to Athens. I just came back from Athens. So that's what some of that is. Not just my office. There's a lot of crazy shit in here.
Now, I have to ask, because I know this was a big goal of yours. It was the Kiss picture with the family. I have to know the whole setup for that, because it took me a while. But the missus, when you finally got it set up, she was like, okay, let's do it. She kind of gave in.
Well, I've been saying that since my kids were little. I said I have 2 daughters and I have a wife, and me, that's 4. We're Kiss, basically. So when my kids were little, I said, I'm going to be able to dress them up as Kiss. We'll all dress up as Kiss. And my wife was like, yeah, that sounds like a fun idea, knowing that that's never going to happen. He's never going to pull that together. Years went by, years went by, years went by. Then my kids were a little bit older. And I said, well, it's just going to be up to me. So I, went out, researched, Kiss, bought whatever I think was Clown White, a certain kind of makeup that they use. And I saw an instructional video and got the Q-tips like Kiss uses, bought all the right makeup, the silver for Ace and the green stuff for Peter. And my wife doesn't know that much about Kiss, but we showed up one day. They all showed up. They walked in. I had all the makeup mirrors on the table. I said, this is what we're doing. Okay. I'm Gene, number one. Then I kind of assigned who everybody else was going to get. And my wife's not that familiar. So she was Peter. So she's looking at looking at a picture of Peter Chris, and she's doing the makeup. And I was like, yours looks really good. She was pretty good at it. My other daughters had to put some of it on me because I can't see a lot of times without my glasses. So it'd be like, if you're putting makeup on, and it's like, you can't see while you're putting it on. So they would be coloring it on me. But we took an afternoon and laughed like hell sitting around a table. And then we kind of set up so that it would look like the cover of Dynasty. And we took a picture like that. And we're like, that's going to be our Christmas card. So we put Merry Kissmas. And we sent that out to everybody. I had a friend of mine, Eddie Trunk, call me up and he's like, can I share this? This is the greatest Christmas card I've ever seen. So it was just a fun day. And my daughters still talk about it because they're like, my dad is just out of his mind.
Shout out to the guys at that metal show, Jim and Jamie.
Yeah.
I always think about this. Like, some of the coolest, like, most rugged dudes always end up being the girl dad. And my friend, he didn't change, if you know what I mean. But right. You could see a softness in his heart as soon as his daughters were born. I wanted to know, being, the reputation, a lot of us in the metal community are cool guys, but we're rough, we're rugged. Like you said, New Jersey guys, we flip that's our international sign of hello is the middle finger. Did you feel like something changed in you when you had your daughters?
I wanted girls. I know a lot of guys are like, I want to have a little me. We'll sit around in our underwear and watch the football game and, all that kind of guy stuff. And I had a typical Italian guy relationship with my dad. He was a pretty old school guy, and butted heads over a lot of things. And I wasn't sure how I would fare with sons. You know what I mean? Because with daughters, it was much easier to just kind of shower them with love and attention. And, that just felt easier to me to do with girls than with little boys, maybe. So I always wanted girls, and I was very happy to have girls. But listen, my girls too, I said my daughters are beautiful, beautiful girls, and smart. Both of them really smart, way smarter than I'll ever be. But they are wisecracking Jersey girls. I mean, they don't, they'll give it as good as they get. You know what I mean? So, with me as a dad, and then even they used to be on the road with me all the time when they were younger. They'd come on the bus and they'd get a bunk and they'd be around the guys in the band and breaking balls with the guys in the band and having fun. And, the guys in the band would tease them. So they're, when they walk into a room that looks like it's full of bikers, they're not, that it doesn't phase them. This is what my dad's crew looked like. When he walked in with all those guys, it looked scary, but they were like, they just knew him as, the guys in the band. That's just kind of the way they look. So that's been a part of their lives the whole time. And for me, it was, I just loved having them around. They're, even now, I can go out with them. We can go to the movies. We can go to a Giant game. I do anything with my daughters and have a lot of laughs and have a lot of fun.
And that's a blessing in itself too, especially I know during COVID, everyone pretty much came home again, and then you were able to have that extra time. It's something I found cool was not only are you and the Mrs. High School sweethearts, but she's also a psychiatrist. And it made me wonder, like, what was the dynamic between you two back in the day when you were touring and away from home? Because she's given you a lot of great advice over the years. The one that always sticks out is like, hey, you're in a different city. You should go out and do this, but especially for a time where you couldn't just pick up the phone and say hello, and you had to find the payphone, and it took hours, days before you could reach back home. I wanted to know how you guys were able to have that back and forth. Was her training in psychology something that helped, where she was kind of like helping you cope with that stress of being away from the family and home?
Uh, not so much. I think everything was a lot harder for her than it was for me, and really, I don't know, God, I don't know hardly anyone who's been married and is in a band, for as long as I have. A few guys here and there, but it's straining. It is. It's hard, especially I would leave, for a month at a time, and my wife Lisa, would be with both kids, and she had her own practice, so we would have, people come watch the kids, and she'd be see patients all day, and then she'd have them at the end of the day, and that's when we had kids. But even before then, she's been there for the whole ride. So when I got out of high school and said, "Oh yeah, I want to do this," she was always behind me. Said she always loved the music. Everything that I did was always like, "This is the greatest song, and this is the greatest thing." And she was always a huge supporter and all that. But it was harder for her, definitely harder for her than, they don't call it working live, they call it playing live. Playing, I'm going to go play a show, I'm going to go play with my friends, because that's what it is. So I'm tramping around the world, missing my kids and missing her when I'm away, but I'm having a lot of fun too. um, there's not as much fun at home when you're a single parent, kind of with both the kids and a job. So really, but the biggest reason that I have been able to do it for the amount of years that I've been able to do it, and with the consistency and all that, is because I have a wife who worked and earned some money, and was tolerant enough for me to jump out and do what I had to do or what I wanted to do. And trying to get a balance of that is harder when you're younger, especially back in the day when, like I said, there was no cell phones. There was none of that. I mean, now literally, I'm laying in a bunk on a bus going through Italy on FaceTime, just bullshitting about this and that, talking about our day. Back whenever it was, it would be like I didn't talk to her for 5 days because I couldn't find a phone. And you had to change money in every country you went into for pay phones. So it's like a handful of money, but this is Polish money. It doesn't work in or Czech Republic or wherever it was. So I think we've kind of supported each other and tried to get it's a big lift for a family, for a couple, and for a family to have a musician in the family.
But that support, it's kind of like when I have people thank my parents for being vets, they always thank me too. And I'm a little apprehensive for that. I'm like, well, hold on, I didn't, and I'm getting the benefits here. I'm taking and not, putting in. But they always say, the family goes through it just as much as the vet does. And
Yeah,
that's
for
kind
sure.
of how it is for veterans. Man, speaking of Poland, I wanted to know, you guys with Overkill, when you went over there to Poland for the first time, I believe it was '87, you were one of the first bands invited while they were still under communist rule, and it was a huge deal. And you still got arrested for sightseeing, for taking pictures. And Bobby's the one that got beat up, thrown over a car. He said, F you is understood in every language, but yet you were the one that got in jail just being a normal tourist. Like, what was the dynamic with that? What happened?
I mean, we were just a bunch of jackass kids, you know what I mean? We were just like some young punks from Jersey. And we were out on tour, having a great time. And yeah, we were the first American band invited to play, American metal band invited to play in Poland. And they had this big festival. God, I forget. I think Halloween was on it with us because we were maybe touring with them at the time. Yeah, I think Halloween was with us. And there was another band from Germany there too. So we went there and we just went out sightseeing, just kind of hanging out. And we had somebody from a magazine with us. She was a journalist or photographer or both. And she was out with us too. And we didn't have our passports with us. you know, we probably had bought some beer or brought some beer from the hotel, and we were just kind of wandering around, taking in the sights. But we went into a train station, and we were walking around, looking at this, looking at that, and we were taking pictures, you know, like a tourist take pictures. Cops came and grabbed us, um, put us in the back of this wagon. Couldn't speak any English at all. You know, back, this is 40 years ago. It's like you go to Poland now, you could stop anybody on the street and somebody speaks English somewhere, some amount of English, but these guys didn't speak a word. So they grabbed us. We didn't know why. They couldn't tell us why. We took us, put us in this jail, in a little jail cell, you know, with the door that closes and the whole bit. And we were sitting there. I should have been way more scared than I was. I think back on it, I was like, I wasn't scared at all. We were like, oh man, this is killing my buzz. You know, it was like we weren't we weren't really that fazed by it. They asked us where we were staying. We didn't even know. We didn't, you know, when you're touring, it's like, I don't know the hotel. I got up off the bus this morning. I just kind of wandered into the hotel. I was given a room key. I mean, you know, so we didn't even know, but the journalist was with us that did know. And we found out ultimately the reason they grabbed us was because we were taking pictures at the train station, and in the background of the train station is a military facility. So you're not allowed to take pictures in that direction or whatever it was. I mean, which we didn't know. So whatever, promoter came down there, kind of worked it all out, got us out of there, got us back on our way. But yeah, that was interesting. Like I said, I really should have been more nervous, but I kind of wasn't. Just being, you know, young and dumb.
You've mentioned that at first you were so driven, you were so hell-bent on making it, that when you would go to these new places, that the only focus was the gig. So you would stay inside, you really weren't worried about it. And then as time went on, as you've been there a couple of times, then you started to, you know what, let me go enjoy the places. But that first time sensation's not really there anymore. So you have to try and make new, you know, first time experiences going to those
Yeah.
places. I wanted to know when you finally got that idea of like, you know what, I'm having an opportunity to be somewhere. You know, what was some of the first spots that you were really able to go like, okay, I can enjoy this while gigging?
Well, it was really like it was all over. It wasn't like just Europe or just the spots that you would think, like, you know, London and Paris and, you know, those kinds of places. I can remember I was in New Orleans. We were staying at a hotel, and we had a day off. And I said there was like a boardwalk on the Mississippi, and there was an aquarium. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to the aquarium, like, because one here close to my town. I live close to the beach here down the shore, and I go there sometimes. And I have a fish tank, and I've always been, you know, I just like aquariums and those kinds of places. So I'm gonna go, and you know, the guys in my band, there's just no way they're going to the aquarium for the day. All right, you know, it's like they're gonna fill up the bathtub with beer, and we're gonna hang out here. We're gonna go out later. We're gonna find a casino or some kind of stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll just head out on my own. So I go down there, I get all the way down, I get to the aquarium, and it's closed on Mondays. I'm like, okay. So I'm walking along the boardwalk. I'm like, I'm just walking along. As I'm walking along, a guy is standing on the thing, just yelling and hawking, and he's saying, come on board. And it's a huge riverboat, you know, with the big wheel in the back. And he said, you know, this will take you a half an hour up the Mississippi and then a half an hour back. And you pay whatever it was, $15. You get a drink. And there's a little, you know, 5-piece jazz band playing upstairs on the balcony. And I'm sitting there on the balcony, sipping my gin and tonic, going up the Mississippi. And I'm like, this is pretty fucking great. And I said, normally I'd be sitting back at the hotel with Netflix and catching up on whatever kind of show, just kind of relaxing or whatever. And so that made me just think that, you know, even if it's like, I'm going to head out to this place or head out to this place, that just head out, because you never know. I'm not one to kind of look up everything on the phone and see where everything is. It's like I need something to eat. It's like, oh, let me find Italian restaurants near where I am. It's like, I'll just go wander and I'll find something that I wouldn't have thought of. I had another time when I was in Barcelona. We were playing a gig, and I went wandering around, and a ways from the gig, there was Chicago, the musical was playing. And I look at the times and I'm like, damn, it starts at like 7 and it's done at, I don't know, 9:30. We're on at 9:30. I'm like, so I go back to the gig. I change into my stage clothes. I go back out to the theater, buy a ticket to go see Chicago in Spanish. And I sit there in my stage clothes and watch until, 9:15, just as I couldn't see all the way to the end, cut out, got down to the theater as quickly as I could, in the back door, right onto the stage. Somebody hands me a guitar and I'm on stage. But that's more the way I think now, is like, if I have an opportunity to go out and see something or do something, I go wander and kind of take advantage of that. You just never know what's going to be out there.
I am starting to see why they call you Ghost, good sir. Your own thing, is normal, and they're the ones that are, keeping up with you. All right.
Well, it's just everybody's different with that kind of thing. It's like, especially as you get older, it's like a lot of times a day off will be like recovery. So it's not about wandering, but I just do it more and more. Over the last 10, 15 years, is try to get out wherever I can and go see what's out there.
The last time I got to see you live, Overkill, it
Right.
was 2023, MetLife Stadium, Metallica.
Oh, yeah.
That day was full of so many surprises for me. I got to run into Dan Lorenzo of Patriarchs in Black, Nonfiction. I got to run into Chuck Billy randomly. I got to see you guys in the parking lot, which was such a joy, because there's nothing like you guys. You guys are a powerhouse, and I always hold you at the highest esteem when it comes to thrash metal. You're the #1 standard. No offense to Metallica, they kind of went all over the place. But I wanted to know, I know that day for you was also a big deal because it was a home show. You are a Giants fan, so you got to actually tour the facility. And of course, everybody was there that you knew, friends and family. So being that was such a monumental day for everybody, I wanted to know what your experience was like from start to finish.
The fact that, like a feed came up on my phone because we were home. We weren't out on the road. We were home for that. So a feed came up on my phone and had a picture of MetLife Stadium, and it had an Overkill logo, and it said today. And I was like, oh man, this is badass. This is cool. And so I had to start that day with, I have a box of Super Bowl rings. There are 4 giant Super Bowl rings, replica rings, that my daughter had got me for Christmas one year or whatever. So I'm like, I'm going playing MetLife Stadium. I'm wearing the giant Super Bowl ring. Took off my regular ring, put on my big honking gold Giants first Super Bowl ring. I said, I'm wearing this for the day. Got in my car. It's like I'm just driving to the gig, driving up the turnpike, going to MetLife Stadium. And then they had, a big outdoor stage set up. The fact that the Metallica guys called us and said, you guys available to come do this. And even I have a million friends who are Giant fans, also metal fans, and they're all kind of a little bit like me. They're a little bit older. It's like, yeah, it's a gig. That's fun, but it's at Giant Stadium. Oh my God. All I wanted to do was walk in through the tunnel. We tried to get into the area where the Giants dressing rooms were and all that, but that was all guarded off. That was like freaking military over there practically. You weren't allowed anywhere near that, but you were able to go up to where the catering was inside the building. You could go into where all the sports writers sit when they watch the games. You were able to go into where the coaches sit when they're watching the game. And then just to see all the Giants memorabilia, all the trophies and trophy cases, all that stuff, that part of it was amazing. And then it was weird because we did all that. We kind of did sound check and we went through the stadium. We did all that. And then we came walking back downstairs and these golf carts took us back over to the gig. And as we're coming over, it's maybe an hour before the show, there's like nobody there. We're like, wow, really? I would have thought, and we go into like this tent area that they have for dressing rooms. And within 40 minutes, there was like 7,000 people there. I'm like, where the fuck did they come from? I mean, I guess just a parking lot and started to fill up as the concert started to take off. But then, you know, even that, I have very few pictures that I've saved, like really saved through the years. But there's a picture of us on stage, and kind of me and Blitz are at the end of the stage or whatever. And the way the angle is, you can see me and him and the stage and the MetLife Stadium in the background. You know, like the sign. I'm like, all right, well, that one's going on the wall. I like that one. So that was a very fun day. But it was also too, it was a little, we had like 3 guys in the band had COVID. So we had to kind of stay away. Mine was over. I tested negative like that morning. I think everybody tested negative that morning, but we wanted to just, you know, kind of chat with the Metallica guys for a little bit, but it was like, nah, you know, we'd like to, but we're just going to stay away. So after the show, we cut out of there pretty quickly, and didn't stay around the bands too much, but that was a great day. A lot of fun that day for sure.
I have to join you driving up on the turnpike, seeing your symbol, and not knowing you guys were going to play. That was probably one of the best weekends I've ever had. You know, I always fascinate over friendships, business relationships, people that stick it out, hate each other or love each other. You guys, you know, you have a bond, and you and Blitz have really stood the test of time. And a lot of that has to do with not only getting along, but you guys had the same vision, you guys had the same drive. I wanted to know when you first met him, being that it was you and Raz needed people, he and his people need people, and you guys joined together, and it just ended up that you two were the ones that stuck it out. What was your first impressions of him? Because he's the fun guy. He'll say anything, he'll do anything, and he always has the story to back it up, but he's overcome so much as well, with strokes on stage, with fighting cancer and all these other things, and you know, you guys, that brings people together stronger, and the bond you guys have is, you know, it's pretty sealed tight at this point. I just wanted to know your first impressions of him and where you guys are as far as that friendship, and how, you know, he's been there for you.
Well, but I'm supposed to stay here, because usually the running joke with me and Blitz is, if somebody asks me about him, I say, that motherfucker, I've been carrying him around like a freaking refrigerator on my back for 40 years. I've been carrying his ass, and he usually does the same when asked about me. But you know, when we first met, I mean, I don't remember exactly. We kind of showed up. This was, you know, like you said, that Blitz and this guy Rob Patriarchs there was a guitar player that they had kind of worked together, and me and Rat had worked together, and we called each other and said, all right, let's get together. And back in the day, you got together and like, we're gonna jam some songs. It's like, all right, let's do Green Man Leashy, let's do, you know, whatever it is, Sin City, whatever the metal songs of the day were. So we went up there, me and Rat drove up there, we went in the basement, we said we were setting up our gear, the drums and the bass and whatever. Their stuff was kind of already set up. Oh, this is, and they went upstairs, and they kind of disappeared for a little while. And I'm like, I don't know what me and Red are like, whatever. Okay, we're just setting up our shit. But they came back downstairs, and they had all stage clothes on. They had like leather pants on, they had leather boots on, they had armbands, the whole things, you know, just to kind of say like, you know, this is what we're bringing to the table. And we were like, all right, it's a little weird, but that's pretty cool, because that's the way we dress when we're on stage too. It's a similar kind of a thing. And we sounded good, like right out of the gate. I mean, the rehearsal went well, the song sounded good, and we were like, okay, you know, let's do this. And Blitz has always been like he is now. He was always kind of, you know, cracking jokes. He was always kind of telling stories. He was always animated. He likes to be around people. He likes to be in the center of a room telling a bunch of shit. He's kind of like a natural front man, you know, for that kind of a front man. There's all kinds of different front man. But when you think of like the prototypical front man, that's just how he is. It just comes natural to him. So, and he's been that same guy really through all these years. I mean, he's you know, like all of us, me included, we're older now, a little more grizzled, a little less patient, that kind of thing. But you know, all in all, we have a good time. we're on the same page most of the time about most everything. And when you have this many years under your belt too, you're like, there's not a lot of people that you can trust, that have your back and you have theirs. And me and Blitz are always like, well, this is our thing. Me and you started this, whatever it is. It's like, you got to be happy. I got to be happy. Whatever we got to do to make that happen, we pretty much do. So it's never really usually that tense. I'd say almost rarely. We're usually kind of in lockstep about most everything. And part of that, I think, has got to do with too, that we don't, I'm very aware, I have been for a long time, on burnout. And because I have a family, so, God, maybe 20 years ago, I kind of was like, I just can't do these real long tours anymore. I got kids at home. And I think it's been good for the band. I think it's been good for our families. I think it's been good when you're out on the road for, usually we go weekend to weekend to weekend. And so we would do like, all right, that's only 20 days. You can only cover part of the country. And it's like, well, then we'll do another run, and we'll do another run, and we'll do another run, but we'll keep coming home. And is that the best way financially to do it? Well, no. But, he doesn't have kids. He didn't have a family, but he didn't say, fuck that. I don't want to fucking do that. He's like, all right, if that's how we got to do it, we'll make it work. And we have made it work. But I think in the long run, just those long tours are, especially, the younger guys, you put them out there on the road, they're catching hell from the old lady back at home. Everybody's having a few drinks. Everybody starts getting tired now. You start missing home. It's just not a good, it's not a good brew, to keep bands together for a long time. But I think because we did it that way, it's remained where, like, even the other guys in the band, they're just, we have the best friggin' time. We get together because it's only for 3 weeks, 16 days or whatever. And you see, our crew is just as close to us as the band is. So we get together and we just have so much fun. It's like a bunch of guys going to camp with a lot of laughs. As long as it stays like that, even now we're, getting older, it's like, when are you going to stop, or when are things going to be? It's like, well, as long as it stays like that, why would you want to? As long as it's not too much, and we've kind of made it so it wouldn't be too much over the years. So between me and Blitz, we've been able to kind of keep it, be in the same headspace, the both of us, through all these years. And so that's why it's lasted.
And you've been very vocal about wanting to work with the best, but you guys are only working with people you get along with. You don't want the guy who's like, well, I'm only going to give my best if I'm getting paid for it. You want somebody that's going to do it the old school way, give it 100% all the time. And you also only have had one person ever get kicked out the band. Everybody else has come in, they've had a great time, and for whatever reason, when they left, they had that opportunity to. That's good business. And it's not just the music business, good business. That's good business in general, where you guys are just generally open, generally, happy to be there. And it translates. My last thrash question before we get into the swing, because I got some real big questions for you, sir. Pun intended.
Okay.
One of the greatest concerts I've ever been to. It was a very defining moment for life. It was a defining moment for this career and this podcast. And it was a defining moment as a fan. Was you played with Death Angel and Mothership at the TLA in April of 2019. Now, aside from what was going on in my life, it was the perfect storm again. I had friends show up. I got to chop it up with Ted for an interview, but it was when you guys came out, commanded the stage. And I got story upon story, but that was one of the top 5 concerts I've ever been to, because everything was just right. But something you did that was unexpected, lightning in a bottle. I'm saying it over and over again for a reason. You guys played Deny the Cross. And that has been my favorite Overkill song since I found you guys. Fear's name's great, but Deny the Cross gives me some sort of spiritual blessing. I'm a bad Christian, so I say don't let my antics make Jesus look bad. But it really is one song, regardless of the lyrics, regardless of the sound. it really does kind of give me that sense of like, how could you not believe in a higher power? How could you not believe in the goodness of reality with this particular sound? And I've always questioned what your headspace was for that song. It might not mean that much to you, but for me, that was the song of like, this is the standard for what metal should be. So I've always seeing it live, man. I'm telling you, I was freaking out in the crowd. I was like, I told you Jesus is real. Listen to that dude was so confused. It's like he just said deny the cross. What do you mean Jesus is? His wires were twisted. I didn't give him that explanation. But I always wanted to know what if you remembered that show. I know you do so many, so that might be a far off one to remember. But what that song means to you, or if there's any Overkill songs that make you feel that way, like this is what I'm meant to do.
Well, it's funny about Deny the Cross. I couldn't comment lyrically because what Blitz has got going on sometimes is like I don't even know. He's got a whole other space and realm that he's working at. I always say a lot of times for my lyrics, I was like, if you don't read the lyrics and know exactly what I am talking about, then I screwed it up somehow. And I think Blitz is almost the exact opposite. It's like, if this doesn't have different meanings to everybody, then I screwed up, because I think he's trying to be a little ambiguous like that. But it's funny with Deny the Cross, because it's in our set right now. We just played in Greece last week, and it was in the set. We were in Sao Paulo the week before that. It was in our set. It's been in our set for a little bit now. And it's funny. We were like, that song feels the same when you're playing it on stage to when I was 22. I don't know why that one. There's something about the energy in that song. It totally holds up. It still feels like, we always talk about with Overkill when we're writing songs that we wanted to have that garage band energy. We don't want it to sound like this slick band who's got 40 years under their belt. I mean, we want, obviously, that's going to come across as well. But that garage band energy that you used to feel when it was just kicking in the room. The reason why it sounded so great in the room is because you were rehearsing 3 days a week, every week, week after week after week. And the band was just a friggin' machine at rehearsals. Now, you rehearse for a day, go on the tour because you know it. You've got all those years under your belt. But Deny the Cross is one of those songs that still feels like it has that kind of energy, still feels current in the room. Even when you're playing at rehearsal, you can just see everybody starts to get a little bit more animated. And even our drummer, Jeremy, now, we have a newer drummer, Jeremy, and he's a little younger than us. And he's like, what the fuck with this song? I'm like, hell yeah. That's what I like to hear. But yeah, it's funny that's, I mean, there's a lot of them that are like that. But when you go into the older catalog, some of them don't hold up as well. But that's one that definitely feels just as fresh just now.
It's funny you say that because my uncle is the one that put me on to the obscure songs. Like I said earlier, Rich Finder General. That got me to pop, and Big Daddy Voodoo. He's the one that got me into that music. We're not actually, yeah, Walter did that. So, your band is a staple for us. Like, no matter what you guys did, what time period, even I know some of the albums you were like, it's okay. It was good for where we were. They still have this very strong connection and this beauty. And it's not like, oh, well, we like the band, so we like the music. Like, Walter's pretty brutal. He cussed me out at the MMRBQ one time. I was like, you want to see Fuel? I was like, I ain't fucking Fuel. I'm like, bro. It's a band, relax. Like, very passionate. So, it is what it is. And back to what you said about Blitz, I remember the story about him trying to say prosut, and he was like, what freaking world with this? for him to be confused about that, but then to lyrically make it ambiguous so everyone can partake in it, man. That's a genius level that maybe even he doesn't even notice. But back to the idea of, a band, 40 years, very slick, very on it. We got to talk about the Cadillac Band, good sir. I did swing dance in college,
Oh boy.
And
Okay.
when I introduced this to my friend, because she's a singer and she still does swing dance, I said, "Hey, try this." She's been apprehensive with the music I've sent her. You know, listen to Dickinson, listen to Dio. I know
Right.
sound is a big deal for you, especially when you guys were supposed to bring in all the albums. And then he's like, "That you picked Holy Diver as the sound you wanted," which
I
is also
did. Yeah.
fascinating, considering the third album you came up with something really physical for bass. So back to the point. For the Cadillac Band, you know, Volbeat is a band that has that swing and that jive back and forth. And I know you've gotten to work with Bobby. And being that you found Volbeat before they even broke in the US, you knew about them when they were still huge in Sweden. I wanted to know if you ever reached out to him. It's like, "Hey, do you know if like one of the guys or Michael would want to go in?" Because I think your voice with Michael, and even if you could get Tremonti, because I know he plays too, that would
Yeah.
be an interesting combination. Have you reached out to him for that before?
I haven't, but I feel like let's set that up right now. I'd sign for that right now. I mean, Michael and Volbeat, I think is just Volbeat. I just love. I have forever and ever. I just think they're a great band, and the songs that I like of theirs, the ones that I really, really love, are the ones that are a little bit more to that '50s edged one. I know those are the ones that sometimes in the metal community they're the like, oh, those are the the singles. I could live without those. They're like the heavier stuff and kind of people are all over the map on that. But I love those things. And then Mark in Creed, he the Sinatra thing he put out is it's much more traditional, doing kind of standards or that kind of thing. But the three of us doing something. I had spoken to Mark's manager maybe last year because Eddie Trunk who knew Mark well, and um, he got me. I think Mark was doing some shows, and he was like, maybe they were looking for support at the time, something like that. And he said, maybe you should reach out to their manager. Maybe there's something there for the two of you guys together that could make sense. A guy from Overkill, a guy who plays in Creed and Alter Bridge and all the stuff that Mark does together. But I think he does a lot of his stuff for charity, so I wasn't sure if there was, whatever it was, it didn't work out. But the idea of a couple of metal guys doing that would be awesome. I mean, I would. I haven't reached out to Michael and Volbeat about that, but just kind of based on what the band is about, it seems like something he'd be into, right? I mean, I know I had spoken. This is weird too. I had spoken to Nurgle and Behemoth because he's got this project called Me and That Man, and we have one of our techs is good friends with them and is their tech as well, and somehow our lines got connected and it was like maybe Me and That Man and the Cadillac Band could do something together. And so we kind of shared a couple of emails back and forth about maybe that could be something. I know he's working on a new one of those records now, so but who the heck knows? I mean, who knows where this kind of thing is going to go. I'm just loving it as I'm doing it right now, and we'll see where it goes.
That you said in another interview, your dad loves Sinatra, your uncle Tom Jones. You know, you covered Fats Domino, but when you were younger, you were kind of trying to get away from that music, and metal was a little bit more appealing, and the punk. And now you're back in that realm, and you're actually killing it. So when it comes to lyrics, you said at times that you used to hate doing lyrics, and then when you did the album with Company, you said it became fun again. I wanted to know for the Cadillac Band, was it a little easier for you to develop the lyrics because it is a little bit more straightforward? It is more your jive as far as like casino living. I mean, you're on the beach now. You understand where you're at, man. It's just, get yourself a roll of 20s and hop into the casino and it's you versus the house. Was it a little easier developing the lyrics for the last album for 13 for this particular album? How was the lyricism for you this time?
It's interesting for this kind of music. It wasn't even just the lyrics; it was the actual words. Like like there was one song where one of the words I used was hullabaloo. I was like, okay, I never thought I'd be using the word hullabaloo in a song, but when you get into kind of the genre, you start to like you would call women gals, You know what I mean? Or and instead of guys, you would say, you know, it's using the dialect or the kind of even words and phrases that they might have used back then. Starts to seep its way into the lyrics that you do put. But I think the lyrics for most of this are kind of more generalized. So I didn't realize, because I was asked about this a few times, was there's a lot of songs about girls. So all I could figure is that's a kind of a general notion of a man, or for something to write about. It's like, I'd like to get this girl. The girl doesn't want any part of me. I'm glad I got the girl. I wish I had the girl. I'm having fun with the girl. There's a lot of that going on, which I think maybe was running around in the background in some ways, but that seems to be kind of a universal uh, thing, and that shows up in a lot of the lyrics on the record. I think I've even said on Lucky 13, it's the idea of being in a casino and having some drinks and having some fun, and you know, the excitement of all that. But really, on that song in particular, is mostly about that's just a means to the end, and the end is being with the girl. You want to be with this girl. We're in the casino doing this and that. I would just go out and sit on the bench. I would go hang out anywhere. We just happen to be doing this right now. And then, Jesus, so like, you know, I had a song on the last record called "Give Me Your Number," trying to get this girl's number. I had another song on this record called "Hey, Mr. DJ," which was about, you know, a guy coming over to the DJ at a dance and saying, "This is a song you need to play, because if you play this, I can get with this girl." And the DJ saying, "Well, I'm not really sure." And these guys kind of saying, "All right, I don't want to threaten you, but you better be playing this song." And then the girls have a part in the song where they're like, "It doesn't matter what song you play, I'm not dancing with you anyway." So it's, you know what I mean? It's kind of having fun and kind of more kind of global topics that kind of everybody, you know, I could have somebody 70 years old at a Cadillac show, and I could have somebody 15. And the idea of me trying to get the girl is in both their lives. And it was just fun. It was just fun kind of doing those kinds of ideas and those kinds of songs. And it made it less painful to write the lyrics.
But you know, you've also kind of lived the fantasy, high school sweethearts. You got the girl, so I think you, even though it was a little different considering the music, you still have that connection to that hope and that realization of like it actually happened. I did it, like that adrenaline boost. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the back and forth, because this was a very new venture for you the first time around. This time you did a song with the Reverend Horton Heat, two of a kind, and the back and forth. That's super fun when you can get a good flow, make this song really a conversation, but still be singing. You know, was that still a little natural to you? Because I know you said one time, and it kind of confused me, if you could elaborate on this. You said playing guitar and singing was easier than playing bass at times. And I always figured that was maybe because of how physical you have to be with your sound. You know, you could give me your bass right now, I won't sound like you. But if you take it, you know, that's why your shoulder was hurting, because you're so physical with it.
Right.
So I wanted to know, with that kind of situation where it's vocally, you know, was it as natural as switching it up from bass, or was it still a little back and forth, even though I get it's recorded, you guys go one take at a time, but what was that experience like, having somebody else on the track with you singing back and forth?
And that was just a great time. When me and Jim, when we did the video, it's funny, when we did the video, we had never met. The first time we met in person was standing on stage in the video to do the video. Up until then, we'd gone back and forth on emails, back and forth on the phone. And I called him completely out of the blue. This is, again, my wife who puts this shit in my ear. I was like, listen, I can't just call someone I don't know and say, "Hey, do you want to sing on this song? I think it would be great." He was like, "Why not?" So it's always her kind of pushing me out from behind the curtain saying, "Get out there." So that's just what I did. I think I called this manager. I got my agent, got his number or something. And I reached out and said, "Hey, I'm Didi. I play in Overkill. I have this other band. I'm doing this Bobby Darin, Johnny Mercer song. I'd love to have you be on it. What do you think?" And he wrote me back couple days later, he's like, he's a huge Johnny Mercer fan and Bobby Darin fan. He knows the song. He would love to do it. He was on the road. He said, you know, how quick do you need it? And we kind of went back and forth on that. He finished up his tour. I sent him the tracks. He sent it back over, and my guy mixed it, and it was great. And we were like, okay, that was a lot of fun. People are going to freak out when they hear this. So cool. But then we were doing a video, and I was looking at Jim's schedule because we were off the road. Because I said I want to go check them out when they come by, and they're in town. I said, hey, they're going to be in town. Maybe we can work this out into a video kind of situation. So me and Jim went back and forth a little bit, and he was like very generous. He's like, you know, I got a day off. If it's close by, you know, I'll just come on down. So yeah, he showed up, whatever it was, 7 o'clock, had his guitar with him, said, where do I go? What do we do? And we got on, and we kind of met and we talked for a little while, whatever. And we just got along really well, which is, I was a little weird. You know, he's a very Southern gentleman from Austin or Dallas. I think he's in Dallas now. But really, you know, wears the bowler tie. You know, he's could wear like the Texas thing, you know, belt buckle. He's a old school Texas guy, and I am definitely not. You know what I mean? I am just an Italian Jersey wise guy, and sometimes those two things can butt heads. But we found that we got along really well. Our careers have been very similar. They were on tour with MotorHead. We were on tour with MotorHead. We shared some MotorHead stories, which were kind of fun. I met the guys in the band. They were real good guys too. So the whole experience of it was pretty great. And when you watch the video, it's like it comes across. It's everybody that I've talked to is like, you know, have you guys just been pals for years and years and years? And I'm like, no, that's we haven't. It just kind of were, you know, kindred spirits in a lot of ways, with a lot of shared kind of, even though we haven't been connected, just a lot of shared things, interests, and career paths through the years. And we just had a blast. I mean, sometimes we'd be able to be like, can we just stop laughing so we can get through this take? Because we were just having fun. It was just a fun day.
And that's good energy. I've only seen that one other time, and that was my roommates in college. I met them, and they were chopping it up. Two different people, no way they're the same, and they're just having a good time. I was like, you guys know each other? Like, no, we just met. And then we had the fights and the craziness and the hospital visits. For Lucky 13, you know, this riff is very swing vibe, but the swing vibe has always been something of an energy. And that energy can translate to thrash and back and forth. I wanted to know, was this one you've had in the pocket for a while and you had to convert it to a swinger style? Because there's a couple of songs you've had for a while that were super old, and then you translated them for the last album for the big band sound. So I wanted to know if 13 was like that, because it does have the Dean Martin vibe, back to the casino, demons and excitement.
That one was fairly new. There's a few songs that get riffing. You know, some songs are more like kind of the standards. I even remember we did Cadillac Band on the last record. It's like Eddie Trunk was like, not for nothing, but I could even see that being an Overkill riff. I was like, what? And I was like, okay, I see kind of what he's saying if you did it in a different way. But that's going to be me. You know, I mean, I write the Overkill songs. I write the Cadillac songs. So some of that same swing and energy. My wife always says, even on Overkill songs, they feel like some of them feel like I can dance to them. I'm like, what? But you know, you get a big kind of swing and groove. You know, like even Pantera songs you can dance to. There are, when you have kind of a groove like that, it's just a different kind of thing. But with Lucky 13, that riff, I think that was the first song I wrote for the record. And so usually something like that, it's like a little bit more aggressive, a little heavier than some of the other songs on the record. I mean, if heavy, you could even use for any song on this record, but it was a little bit more rock edge, let's say, than some of the others, because there's some just straight up standards on the record, and then there's some stuff that's more 50s and kind of stuff that's a little bit more swing. That one, we went with that one because it felt more like a signature kind of thing, where it was like the rock and roll and then the big band swing really kind of fused together. But yeah, that one wasn't that old. That one was somewhat newer for the record.
You mentioned that in the past you told the band, "Hey guys, go for it." That, when it comes to the orchestral or when it comes to horns, we're taught very, very rigidly: stay on time, follow the map, don't go anywhere. And you were telling the guys like, no, 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 no. Let's have some fun with this. Push it. Push the tempo. Have some fun. Kind of like Zeppelin with Stairway. And ladies and gentlemen, please know how cool this man is. He went to go see Led Zeppelin for his first show and said, "I'm out halfway through." Let's keep that in mind. So when it came to this album, was there any particular songs you felt, now that you had your bearings and you were aware of what you wanted, what you needed, and what worked, what didn't work, was there any songs that you were like, no, this one needs to go a little faster, or you know what, maybe we should pull back on this song to really make the point strike a little bit more musically?
Well, one song we did called "The Man with the Golden Arm." It was a kind of a theme song from the Frank Sinatra movie. And I just heard the big riff and I was like, oh wow, there's no lyrics in it. It's just some theme music from the movie. And so I thought I had done this on the last record as well. I had done a song called oh God, what was the name of that song? I always think of it as the Bugs Bunny riff, but I can't even remember the name of the song right now, but it was another instrumental with a big riff, and I put lyrics to it, and I had a lot of fun doing that. A Powerhouse, that's what it's called, Powerhouse. And I put some lyrics to it, and I put a melody to it, and kind of turned it more into a song. And I liked doing that, so I was kind of just listening around. Could I maybe find something like that again? And this Billy May version of that song from the Sinatra movie had that same kind of thing. So I put a bunch of lyrics to that, and I had the girls sing along to part of it, and it was kind of cool. It kind of reminded me of like a James Bond theme a little bit. And when we started mixing that, it was heavier on the guitars, but that was a song that we just pulled the guitars back and back and back. Now they're just kind of very low in there and tucked, because it felt like it should be more like a standard, be more traditional big band. It just seemed like it worked that way. And then there were other songs where there was another song called "If You Want to Dance," where we kind of pushed the guitars up into the mix a little bit more, because it felt like, and that's the nice thing about having a horn section and a piano and different thing. You can feature different things and have the song lean a certain way depending on what it feels like doing it. And sometimes you don't know that till I get the horn arrangements. Like I think that song's going to be like this, and then the horn arrangements come and they're so huge in certain spots. You're like, wow, we got to feature them because they're so great. So as you go along in the writing process for that, it kind of can change sometimes from song to song.
Speaking of Cadillac, man, and 007, I heard "Man with Golden Gun" instead of "Golden Arm" in my head. But Cadillac, man, especially when you guys get to play it live, you do have the little snippet of Mission Impossible in there. And
yeah.
That's super fun, because I like where songs can go somewhere else and then come back, but still make it a dramatic comeback. Like, hey, we're gonna have a little fun. What was the moment? Who was the person that was kind of like, you know what, this is that we could shove that in there, this little Easter egg, and then finish the song out, because it did work really, really nicely and easily.
I don't even know. I was probably just jamming along and started playing that riff because it jumped in my head. And then probably I thought to myself, well, why can't I just do that? I have a horn section. That's the thing, is when you have a horn section, you think up, it's just a whole new avenue of stuff that you can do in your set, in your songs. The last time we played, I had them play a little bit of Iron Man with the horn section, which was, then I thought maybe I'm going to do a little bit of Slayer with the horn section playing part of a riff, or you can break into a little of the Pink Panther, because I have a tenor sax right over here that can do a little bit of that in the middle of a song. So that's probably what it is was me just kind of riffing along with it, and then thinking to myself, I have horns, I can do such things. I could do those kind of things now. And then even in Overkill songs, you can, and that probably came from Black Sabbath, is a lot of times there'll be a song that's going along a path, and Sabbath will just be like, we're just changing, and we're going over here for a while now. And sometimes we'll come back, and sometimes we don't. And we have some of that in Overkill. I think that probably just involved in my writing some, and that all comes from Black Sabbath. Just growing up with that.
But super cool. I can just imagine when you finally get the opportunity, being that we know our casinos pretty well, what casinos are at the top of the list as far as playing? To me, I just saw this at Rock Hard in Atlantic City, or the Borgata. Borgata's my bread and butter. But then when it comes to Vegas, I'm thinking that's a Caesar band right there. That's where he probably should play. What casinos do you have in mind that you would love to play at? I mean, honestly, Dingbats would be a pretty epic show too. That would be very intimate. I feel like that would be a good spot for you.
Listen, Dingbats, we couldn't even fit the band up there. I got 13 guys in the band. I need at least a big enough stage to do it. But I don't spend a lot of time at casinos. I have been, I think I've been to Atlantic City maybe 2 or 3 times. We played there. It's probably the only times I've ever been there. Vegas, we were just there a little while ago, and I don't know what. I've never seen shows at the casino, so it's like is there a big stage at the Bellagio? Maybe that would be awesome. I went to see last time I was there. I went to see the Beatles show, Love. I think it was called Love. I went to see that. That was another show where I went in my stage clothes because I had to leave a little bit early, run down the block or whatever, because we were playing the Hard Rock maybe, or House of Blues maybe. I don't even remember where we were. And the last time we were there, we were just in Vegas, close to the Sphere with King Diamond. We played Harris maybe. I can't remember, but and then there's some casinos in Connecticut. There's casinos in Pennsylvania. I think Cadillac Band would be a great show in a casino. And you could really tailor it, to bring some of that Rat Pack kind of vibe and energy, as well as, songs from the record. You could throw in a bunch of standards, which we usually do too, even when I play shows. There'll be some Sinatra, there'll be some Bobby Darin, there'll be, some Jerry Lee, some Fats Domino, a little bit of everything. What did we do last time? We're always doing a bunch of stuff. We did some Dion songs. We kind of mix it up. So in a casino, you could really kind of tailor the set to kind of work to everybody. And a lot of the songs that are on the Cadillac Band, both records, are they're kind of seamless with a lot of those songs, where we would almost do one of ours, and I think an audience would be like, well, I don't know that one, but it was around the same time era as that. It must have been that one. I just don't know it. So that kind of lends itself to a good time for a casino and that kind of thing. But then I think I had dreams that Cadillac Band goes out with Cheap Trick. I think it would be an amazing opening band for Cheap Trick. I don't know why I think that. Anybody else might be like, are you nuts? But for some reason, to me, it goes together with certain rock stuff too. Even I think sometimes that Cadillac Band could be good on metal festivals. Later in the day, Iron Maiden's already played. It's 11 o'clock now. Everybody's feeling good. They had a few drinks in them at a big metal concert. I think Cadillac Band would be, I would love it. And if I would love it, chances are there's metal fans like me, which there usually is, that would love it as well. So it's a long arc with Cadillac Band. We'll see, from casinos to to outdoor shows to playing with Cheap Trick. I don't know where it's going to land. We'll just have to see.
We're shooting high. Wacken, you got the call. Get them on stage.
He and that man just played at Wacken, so why not?
You know what's also funny? I was wondering, you have a story where you came into parent day, career day. You walk in and you tell the kids like, hey, I'm a musician. This is what I do. Do you guys know what this is? And the kid thought it was a calendar, but it was really a record. Now I have 2 questions from that. One, what was the record you brought in? Because I don't know, as a parent, if my kid's not of sound mind to see Charlie, I don't know how he's going to react yet. And then two,
Right.
were you also dressed in stage clothes, ready to go, just because?
No. I just dad that day. So, but you know, honestly, regular old dad and my stage clothes are not that different. Maybe I'm not wearing a vest with a "fuck you" patch on it, so I have a vest with no patches on it. But otherwise, it's not that different, you know. So, um, and what record was it? It might have been one of our records.
Please
I
tell
don't
me.
even. Yeah, I don't even remember what it was. It wasn't "fuck you." I can tell you. I can tell you that I wasn't showing that to 7-year-olds. Um, it might have been something bland, you know, like WFO or something like that, where it wasn't going to be, you know, no blood and spatter and skulls. Um, I can't even remember exactly what it was that I brought in. But yeah, probably one of the blander kind of covers that would maybe just had a logo on it.
You wrote 3 songs for the ladies over your time. The one that usually gets the most love is Manhattan Baby for your daughter, but everybody has a song now. And the misses, the daughters. I wanted to know if they ever compared them or if there's one that holds one a little bit more special in your heart, because when it's family that you love dearly, you can't compare your wife, you can't compare your daughters, you know, equally, but they're all different. They're all, you know, they touch that certain heartstring, but have they conversed and be like, you know what, I think dad loves you a little bit more because this song's better than mine. You know, was there ever that joke or dynamic of like the ladies collectively going like, I don't know, Dee Dee, this might be the best one out of the 3, or are they all kind of like Jersey style, like, no, I'm best?
Well, yeah, it's funny that they like each other's songs. Like my daughter Olivia, the song I wrote for my wife was called "Just Say You Love Me," and that was her 50th birthday song. And my daughter Olivia loves that one. That's like, oh, that's my favorite song you ever wrote, Dad. I'm like, oh, okay. And you know, Manhattan Baby, that my wife loves that one because I had given that to her and my daughter when my daughter was firstborn, my firstborn daughter, all that. But they were both mad at me because I did the demo for that they got. And then when I did the album, I changed it a little bit. And they're like, oh guts, why did you change this? You put a solo here. God, dad, you screwed it up. I'm like, oh, well, what can I tell you? I'm an artist. I heard an opportunity to fix a few things, and I went ahead and did them. And then the song Olivia, I think everybody likes. It's just jump in, has a lot of energy, and my daughter Olivia's got to sit through that when we play the shows live, and everybody looking at her going, oh, Olivia. She's like, yeah, Olivia, I get it. Even her friends, when they find out there's a song and a video for her, she's like, oh my God, my dad. So I don't. I think there is. I think they all like each other's songs as well as liking their own songs. And then for me, it's like, you know, it's songs are like kids. You know, it's like, oh, I like this one better than this one. It's like, nah, they're both cool. You know, um, for different reasons.
You know, something I do have to ask, because on another record, no offense to your past projects, I just wanted to keep it for the Cadillac Band, but you did do a song about red flags, and you've been
Mhm.
warning the ladies about like, hey, this is what I've encountered in life. You're about to go to school. I think it was 4 years at the time, 4 years ago at the time when you were giving them warnings, like, hey, let people be people, let them show you your true colors. Here are the red flags that I've seen. And there were very particular statements that you told them, like, watch out for it, people will say this, and then that'll kind of give you a clue of what's happening. Could you
Right.
relate to us some of those red flags you've run into in the past that you were able to relate to them?
Well, you know, a part of that too is comes with age. You know, I'm an old guy now, and my kids are younger, and it's easier to see clearly, and it's easier to not tolerate bullshit when you get a little bit older. Um, you know, like the one of the things that I've learned for myself that I would tell my kids, and it's the easiest thing, easiest possible thing. I said, if you're in an interview with somebody and you're interviewing for a job, you come in and the guy or the girl behind the desk is talking to you, and it seems like it's a good job opportunity, seems like a good thing, feels like a good this, and somebody comes in and says, "Sir or Miss, you told me to come in, remind you that at 2 o'clock you have another meeting," and the person at the desk turns around and snaps at them. Can't you see I'm with somebody right now? I told you 1,000 times. It's like, just say right at that moment, thank you for your time, but you're out. And now that's easy to do when you're an old guy and you don't need the money and you don't need the job to just say, this guy's a jerk off. You know what I mean? But I try to put in their head that when someone, that little opportunity that you saw right there, that's going to happen to you because it just happened to them. And when somebody shows you that, you should believe what it is. And I've been, I guess, lucky. I haven't had to do it a lot in my life, but I look back at certain things where I thought to myself, maybe this guy's a jerk off, or this guy's but he's our jerk off. And I was like, I pumped myself up about that. I was like, no, there's just no, I think even for, rock stars, they're given way too much rope. It's somebody who treats other people poorly, even if they're talented. There's a million talented people out there. The only difference between the talented person who's making millions and the talented person who's not is they got a break, they got an opportunity, they got a whatever. But there are talented people everywhere. Don't you think for a second that you can't find anything, a roofer who's not a jerk, or that you get an electrician who's not a jerk, or you have a guitar player, oh, he's really is a jerk off, but he's very good. You know what? There's another one that's just as good who's not a jerk off. So that's what I try to get across to them, is that just if you can, work with quality people, people who are fair and decent, and that if you get a sense that they aren't, just walk away. Just don't say, well, it's a good salary, so I'll put up with it. It's like, yeah, you won't be happy. Just go find someone else. Don't be somebody else.
It's interesting you say that, because somebody who gets a bad rap a lot is Dave Mustaine. Megadeth is a very, very complicated band as far as their story and how everybody operates, and that's one of the bands that you guys toured with very early on and has always treated you very, very well. And you've been very vocal about that, being that, with everything happening, he still would go over, say hello to your daughter, say hello to you, make sure the family was comfortable while you guys were on tour. I wanted to know, was there anybody else as a fan, that you were able to meet, and when you met them, it was just like Dave, being like everything you could have asked for, somebody that you genuinely, just kind of like how I'm meeting you right now, it's like, wow, I have this opportunity to meet somebody, and they did not fail in showing me that love back.
I have guys that I know and friends that I know, but as far as like even the guys like Frankie and Anthrax is always just a really, really good guy. Dave and Megadeth too. Ellefson, he's not Megadeth anymore, but it's just a very. He actually filled in for me. I missed some shows a little while ago, and we kind of reconnected a little bit and talked a little bit about this and that. And he was always too, just a genuine guy, and not even a genuine guy, because there's a lot of guys who are genuine who will, kind of prop themselves up and say, well, I'm honest. It's like, well, you know what? You can use the filter God gave you and still be honest. You know what I mean? So, and David Ellefson is always, he's a straightforward guy, a good guy. And he's, he is who he is. I always felt comfortable with him. And even if I hadn't talked to him for years and years and years and years, we were on the phone bullshitting for, half an hour, 45 minutes. Then you start getting into bass discussions, and then it really can get out of hand, because we'll get all kind of fucking geeky on what pedals and what strings and that kind of shit that you can use. But so I don't know if there's anybody in particular that I've met that, I mean, you almost remember the guys who were worse than the guys who were good, which is sad. But you remember that guy was a this and that guy was a this, and even that, sometimes I try to say to fans, because fans sometimes too are the same kind of way, like, oh, that guy was a jerk, or that guy was a jerk. It's like, you just don't know where you're catching people on that day sometimes. Even that example I gave about the guy being short with somebody like that in the office, it's just a red flag. It doesn't mean that that's who that guy is. But it does mean that it could be who that guy is. So you just got to kind of get your guard up on those kinds of things. Maybe you had a rotten day. maybe some of these people, guys coming off the bus, he didn't sign this or he didn't do this, is having a rotten day, or they're tired, or they're sick. You just don't know. It's hard to gauge it all the time, but it's good to be aware of your surroundings. That's again what I just tell my kids on that stuff.
But you've also met a lot of people that get that bad rep, but you have these amazing stuff. Man, you got the signed Doyle little Misfits thing, and you got a lot of CDs I like, but we're going back to the toys. You got the,
oh, yeah.
the Doyle
It's right up on my shelf.
and all these toy CDs from like Nonfiction, American Psycho, back to the Misfits, back to Metallica's original CDs back in the 90s. We're both stuff guys. I have to know why the Nightmare Before Christmas? What is it about? I know you got the Wilson doll, you got all this stuff. The Nightmare Before Christmas, Disney, that was a seriously important movie, and I've never gotten the explanation of why that had such an impact.
It just kind of just ticks so many boxes for me. It's like almost anything I see by Tim Burton. Even now, it's like I can turn on a Tim Burton movie and watch it with the sound off. I just watch it visually, just to watch what the scenery is, what the costuming is, it's just a way of looking at things that is just twisted and off and creepy. And Nightmare Before Christmas was number one. Christmas and Halloween. I mean, come on, they're my two, since I'm 6 years old, my two absolute favorite days of the year is Halloween and Christmas. And you're going to combine them all in a thing. And there's going to be skulls and coffins. And on top of that, there's going to be songs all throughout the whole thing. That Oogie Boogie song and Lock, Shock, and Barrel song and all the vampires sing, the witches sing. It is tailor-made for, kind of clicking all the boxes that kind of get me interested in stuff. And then I think I'm not like a collectible guy, really. Kind of, that's not really in my personality. So the fact that I'm so into this is not what you would expect from me. To have all of these toys, and I could see how people get the collectibles bug, whether it be baseballs or we were just on tour, and the guys were telling me that there's people collect knives. That's like, knives. Oh yeah, with the different size blade, and it was made with this steel, and the handle is that. I'm like, what? Yeah, $1,500. I'm like, no. But when you get that collectible bug about something, and which I did with the Nightmare stuff, is and I just like to be surrounded by it. I have it all over my shelves. I got it all over the place in the studio. I like a lot of that junk around me. And then I just started gravitating to other things. I started buying little stuff from the Incredibles. I started buying, then I just started buying villains. I would just start buying all the villains from the movies. It's like, I buy all the creepy people. Then I got into the comic book stuff, and I started buying all the Lady Death comics, and then started buying all the Lady Death figurines. And so just the little creepy things like all over the place. I just like, I don't exactly know why. Lots of coffins and creepy things all around make me comfortable.
Like I told you, man, deny the cross. I was like, there's got to be an ultimate good out of this. I feel it. Negative times are negative, but it just sounds like, even though you're born in April, you're just an October baby at heart, good sir. That's what it sounds like.
I think there's probably some sort of truth to that. Yeah.
I would be amiss if I did not mention Dan Lorenzo, Nonfiction, Patriarchs in Black. He was, again, back to somebody that I didn't know how that interview was going to go, and he gave me so much, and the dividends from him giving me time has just exploded my career as far as the podcast. And I know the story of you guys touring with Nonfiction, and you guys were going back and forth about basketball, how the Knicks were doing. I just wanted to know if that, you remember those little details input too, because when I think of Jersey, he's just such a staple when it comes to riffing, and you guys are like, no matter who you talk to, you guys are there. Ghost indeed, man. That is inappropriate. We need to call you Ghost DD or Ghost ddverni, because you just the stretch and the reach you guys have with every musician on this area. New Jersey's the best place for the best talent and unknown talent, and you guys are always name dropped. You guys are always known.
God, we've known Dan like forever, forever. Well, you know, back in the day, you know, Overkill was at Lemoore's, I don't know how many times, and it seemed like either Hades opened up, or Biohazard, or Typo, or Life of Agony, you know. So, but Hades a lot. I mean, we did a lot of shows with Hades back in the day. Alan, I knew forever too. Um, and then, so we had just kind of knew each other from there. And then I don't know how I got the nonfiction records, but I wound up. I remember when they were brought up as a band that we were going out on tour, and we needed another band on a bill, and they came up, and it wasn't even that Dan was in the band. It was that I had those records, and I told him, I said, I just love these records. I mean, you're in the band or not, it was like, this band's fucking great. So I was all for having them out on the tour with us, just because I love their records. The two records that they did, they might have done more after that, but when they did it with us, we just had the two. And then even since then, Dan, he's reached out to me a handful of times asking me to play. Like I'm doing, he does all the Gene Simmons, you know, all the Gene Simmons old Kiss songs. You want to play on this? You want to play on this? I'm like, you know, I don't know. I'm just playing on this and playing on that as my thing. But I appreciate him even asking. I played on a Hades song, I think years ago. He sent me something, and I brought my 8-string in. I did something on the song, and now Dan is the, you know, probably since the nonfiction time, because the Hades stuff was different. That was thrashier, you know. But since the nonfiction times, he's really turned into the, you know, the doomy riff guy, you know. And we have a lot of doomy riffs, you know, that in Overkill, I started putting them in, God, I don't know how long ago, a lot of years ago. And they were met with, that's okay. But I love them so much, I just kept at it. And so now more and more, there are some more of those kinds of riffs in the Overkill stuff. Just because I love that big doomy riffing like that, but those old Sabbathy kind of stuff. And now Johnny Kelly's playing with them too, and for that kind of swing, he's fucking amazing too. He just sent me a song. Dan just sent me a song that, I forget what it was. I was off the new Patriarchs in Black record. There was one that was kind of a ballady one, and that was okay. And there was another one that was fucking just killing. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, there's a lot of Jersey guys like that we've kind of have been in the game forever and ever and ever. And then Dan is one of them. He shows up from time to time, has always got something to say, always got an opinion on something. I don't know if he's driving, he used to drive that black Charger. I'd be like, oh, damn, that car's nice. And I have a big old, you know, black Chrysler 300. So I said, we got to park our cars next to each other. It's like, I'll be making some collections, and with a baseball bat in the trunk, and you can be doing what you're doing in your Challenger or Charger. Challenger or Charger? I'm not sure which one. I think, oh, maybe a Challenger. But anyway, yeah, known Dan forever. Good guy.
There's something about us Jersey cats having a bat in our car. I don't understand why we all have a bat in the trunk. It's just safer that way. But sir, you have expressed your love for Kiss, Maiden, Lemmy, Sabbath. I wanted to know if you were able to meet Lemmy, if you were able to meet anybody from those bands, if there was somebody that you just had one opportunity to say thank you to for the influence.
Lemmy, I knew a bunch. I mean, because we did a bunch of touring with MotorHead through the day. And we talked, and we'd had fun, but I think I was probably so intimidated by him that I remember we were on tour with us, MotorHead, and Slayer early on in our careers, and we were having a good time with the Slayer guys, and MotorHead was more like, you know, revered to us. Like Slayer was just, they're just the same guys as us, you know, there's a bunch of kids, you know, whatever, but MotorHead was MotorHead. This was royalty. And so it was like the end of the tour, and, you know, everybody's planning on how to bust each other's chops or whatever. And we played, when we were playing Rotten to the Core, I think Kerry and Jeff, those guys, and they had all eaten a bunch of apples, and they had like a bushel full of apple cores, and they kind of threw them out when we played Rotten to the Core. There was all the apple cores on the stage or whatever. And when they played Ghost of War, we had like, we put sheets over our head and cut out the eyes and put Ghosts of War, and we walked around on stage and did some shit. So when MotorHead was on, they're like, all right, we're gonna hit them in the face with pies. So and was Phil, I don't know if Phil Campbell was playing with them, not Phil Campbell, Phil Taylor.
Okay.
But whatever it was, it'd be like, okay, you're the guitar player, so you're gonna hit, you know, their guitar player in the face, and you're the drummer, so you're gonna hit their drummer player in the face. Oh yeah, and you're the bass player. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the bass player. If you think that I am going to take a pie out on that stage and hit Lemmy in the face with the pie, you're out of your freaking mind. I said, I am not doing that. And I think we all just chickened out, and we didn't do anything at all. Motorhead was left untouched because we were like, we can't do that. As much fun as we're having with them, we can't do that. So, but I did meet Lemmy a bunch of times, and we spent some time together and whatever. I never have met the Maiden guys before. There was one time we were doing a show with Steve Harris' other band, British Lion in, I think, Czech Republic or something. And I was out on the bus, and I usually stay on the bus, and I come in maybe half an hour before showtime. So I'm hanging out on the bus. I come walking down the hallway, and I'm looking for the dressing room with our, you know, name on it, because it's a festival. There's a, you know, bunch of bands, and I come walking past the coffee machine, and I walk into my dressing room, and I walk in, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, I think that was just Biff and Steve Harris just hanging outside our room. And so I was like, I opened the door back up, and they're kind of walking away, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, that was Steve Harris and Biff from Saxon. Shit, I should have got a picture. But I've never met those guys, you know, any of those kinds of guys. We played with Kiss. I never met the guys. We took a picture with them real quick, which was cool. I never met Geezer Butler. So, you know what it is? They could be like hanging out in our dressing room. Oh, Geezer Butler was here. He was hanging out for the last hour. I'm nowhere to be found. I'm out on the bus. I'm back at the hotel. Wherever things are going on, I'm usually not around. I usually like, where's Dee Dee? He's gone. It could be the Maiden guys were on the bus all night long, and I was sleeping. I was upstairs reading. I never even knew. You know, that would not surprise me.
Eddie ain't doing you right, sir. That's crazy. That is crazy. As connected as he is, he playing right now. I always end these with the most important question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Sometimes somebody sits us down and says, hey, listen to some important advice from an old man. Sometimes they tell us something really funny. Is the fucking you're getting worth the fucking you're giving? You were told a long time ago in your career, all the money is yours, as in no matter what is happening in its advance, just think about everything being spent as your money. And then you were also told, put out the best you have.
Never save anything. Those are, I always quote those two, because they really stuck with me. You know, that all the money is yours really stuck with me. Like, wow, okay. No, nobody's giving me anything. It is all ours. We're spending our own money. And that was like a revelation, like, wow, okay. And then the idea that, you know, especially when you're young, you know, you think to yourself, you know, I'm indestructible. I'm going to be doing this forever. But to somebody to say to me early in my career that says, you might not be, and kind of put that in your head and say, you got to approach each record like it's the last one you're doing, and the absolute best you have, the best you can give, you have to put in, because there's no guarantee you're going to have a next one. You know, like, you get a little jaded as you get into it a little bit, just thinking, oh, well, I'll do it on the next one. Got this great idea for the next one, maybe even one after that. Then we'll get into this kind of area. And for him to come out and tell me, like, that really just stuck with me, just to say that it's burn the bridge behind you. It's all or nothing every single record. And that's the way I've always approached them, all of them.
Is that the moment you finally got rid of the net? You've always mentioned like the best advice for you, not necessarily everyone else, is have no backup, go for it 100%. Is that moment where that kicked in?
Um, I don't even know that I was aware that that was happening. It didn't occur to me till many, many years later that I had no backup plan. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like in the front of my brain that what if this doesn't work out? There was no, I just didn't give it any thought. All I did, I had my head down on the path in front of me. I was putting one foot in front of the other, and I was just living day to day, making sure I was moving forward. So it never occurred to me, what if you can't, what if you're not moving forward? I would even see guys who weren't sometimes. You'd go and roll into town, and your friend would come up at you and say, "Check out my demo," and I'd be like, "Isn't this the one you gave me when I was here, 2 years ago?" Yeah, but that's still the one where I was like, "Wow, you're still working on this one. Why haven't you made another demo, or taken another shot, or how come you haven't gotten down the path?" And a lot of times it's because of real life. I I got bills to pay, so I don't spend as much time on music as I used to, and real life starts to get in the way. I was just lucky enough that my career kind of always moved forward enough, even though it was, no big splashes where, oh my God, this record is double platinum. It was always one foot in front of the other. Even if it was slow march, it was always a march, and that was enough. So I look back on it and I was like, wow, I really had no backup plan. Which is a little scary, but in a way, it helps to say that I have nothing else that I want to do, and as long as you're moving forward slowly, that was enough.
That's so beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you how it is like it is. Jim Florentine copies his voice. Kevin Smith copies his look. This man only drives big cars because he's a Cadillac man. That is ddverni of the Cadillac Band. Guys, go check out their latest single, Lucky 13, is out now. They will be playing Saturday, December 6th in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Also, get your pre-order of their latest album, Buckle Up. You can get on Apple and Spotify, Apple, iTunes, etc. My bad. And also, go follow them on Instagram at the DD Cadillac Band. That's the hashtag, ladies and gentlemen. And Facebook, ddverni and the Cadillac Band. Good sir, I cannot express immensely how grateful I was for your time. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Always appreciate it.
And everyone else, be smart, be mindful, rock on, as always. Get a Cadillac. Ninja.
Woo, baby, you listen to John the Ninja. All your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.